groan, or bounce. You can't get to your floor fast enough to get off. Your unspoken fear is that the elevator might drop, taking you with it. Last fall, 2020 reported on whether your fear is really justified. What can go wrong with an elevator, and what should you do in an emergency? Lynn Sher discovered the ups and downs of elevators.
Going up.
What goes up must come down.
I guess those steel doors just shutting tight.
Spinning wheel.
What's going to make it stop? Or will it ever just keep going?
Got to go round.
Elevators. They are inscrutable, indispensable, ingenious, a critical cog in the daily urban routine. Every 3 days, elevators around the world move the equivalent of the Earth's population. The entire population. We take elevators so much for granted, we can't imagine they won't be there.
I feel so good, I'm going to take the afternoon off.
Not only are there elevators on TV, now there are TVs on elevators. Anything to relieve the awkwardness of standing inches apart from total strangers in this cramped, confined space.
I will not have eye contact with anyone. I will stare at the numbers of the floors.
Perhaps we behave so strangely because elevators are more than just perpendicular subways. They are mysterious, luring us from the outside world into a chamber hurtling through space. It inspires the kind of high anxiety Hollywood does best. Come on, admit it. You've probably worried that could happen to you. Could it? Well, we're going behind the scenes to show you the ropes, everything you've wondered, and a few warnings you need about life in the lift. We begin with elevator phobia. 10% of the American public suffers some fear of these modern machines. But for this group of suburban New Yorkers, every ride is pure terror.
You can't really tell if you're just someone looking at me, but, I mean, it's hell when you're going through it.
These folks are far more comfortable traveling horizontally than vertically. They are confessed elevator phobics.
It's just a sick feeling. Your palms get sweaty, your throat gets tight, it's hard to swallow.
So to overcome their anxiety, they actually practice riding to the top of tall buildings. Tonight their lofty target is the Rainbow Room, 65 flights skyward.
You never been in this one? All right, this elevator takes approximately 55 seconds to a minute. This the first time for you?
Yeah, I have my camera. I'll take pictures after. All right, here we go.
Will they make it? Stay tuned. But you should know they have little reason to worry. Elevators are one of our safest forms of transportation. Statistically safer even than the stairs. But that doesn't stop some people from anticipating and even preparing for the worst. One common myth rehearsed by any number of solo riders: if an elevator is in free fall and you jump just before the crash, you can avoid injury. We tested the theory with an expert, Slade Cargill, professor of applied physics at Columbia University. Worst case scenario, you're standing in an elevator, disaster strikes, the cable is cut, you start going down. Does it do any good to jump?
Doesn't do any good to jump.
Why not?
One problem is knowing when is it you're about to hit.
Professor Cargill explained that even if you could jump at the exact moment of impact, it wouldn't slow you down enough to prevent injury. So if jumping doesn't help,
yes,
what should you do?
Lying down would be a better strategy. Then the forces which act on you at the end would be spread over your entire body.
I'd say praying would have a whole lot more effect than jumping.
Lawrence and Michelle Taylor, who run an elevator consulting company, guided us through the ups and downs of elevator safety. What if the cable's cut?
That just doesn't happen.
Why not? Happens in movies.
In the real world, the basic design of wire ropes is just so good that you'd have to have a multitude of failures to cause that to happen.
Here's how the elevators in most tall buildings work. The cab, or car, is supported by steel cables that run over a pulley and are fastened to a heavy weight. When the motor turns the pulley, the elevator car and the counterweight go in opposite directions. Guide rails keep the elevator from swaying from side to side, and if the car falls too fast, safety brakes grab the rails to stop it.
Is it safe? Generally speaking, it is.
Do the brakes ever fail?
Yes. In which case, you're going for a ride all the way up or all the way down.
All the way up? Could an elevator get out of control and shoot through the roof or shoot way up to the ceiling?
Not only could it happen, that's much more likely to happen than any other kind of uncontrolled movement of the car.
It happened to Taylor himself. How can an elevator fall up? In Taylor's case, when the brakes did fail, with only one passenger, the counterweight was heavier than the car. So when the weight plummeted, it hurled the elevator toward the roof. We'd like to report that such occurrences are rare, but in fact, no one keeps records of elevator accidents. At best, we know that an estimated 6,500 people went to the hospital for elevator-related injuries last year. Most commonly, people are struck by elevator doors, or they trip and fall when the elevator car and the outside floor are not level with each other. But 2020 also found more than 100 deaths from elevator accidents since 1991. That's admittedly a small number, but almost all were preventable. People walking into elevators that weren't there, or falling to their death escaping stalled elevators. Children crushed when caught between the elevator cars and the outside doors. With good maintenance and inspection, accidents shouldn't happen, according to experts. But the Taylors say they see maintenance problems in more than half the buildings they inspect. What's wrong with the maintenance now?
Well, being blunt, it's just not being done.
And when maintenance is being done, critics say it's not always done right. Combined with other problems, that can lead to disaster. At this apartment complex outside Cincinnati, an elevator safety test was completed in June of 1994. Only days later, a group of elderly friends, all survivors of the Nazi Holocaust, left their regular card game and got into the elevator on the 4th floor.
It happened to us on the way down.
I remember the elevator falling.
The elevator went down four stories into the basement.
Florence and Israel Seibert survived one of the worst elevator accidents in recent history. Some of their friends weren't as lucky.
2 people died, 1 instantly, 2 lost their foot, and all the others were hurt.
The Seiberts, who had led healthy, active lives, sustained broken legs and spinal injuries, which left them permanently paralyzed. Florence will spend the rest of her life confined to a wheelchair. Her husband Israel died 2 months ago.
What caused the free fall is all of the fluid burst out of the bottom of that elevator cylinder.
Attorney Stan Chesley explained that the Seiberts were traveling in the type of elevator typically found in buildings under 6 stories, a hydraulic elevator, raised and lowered by a piston powered by oil under pressure. Chesley says the maintenance company ignored clear warning signs.
There had been leaking for quite some period of time. The fact that they were adding oil on a continuous basis should have been a giant red flag.
The victims sued the maintenance company, the manufacturer, and the building owner, all of whom denied any wrongdoing, but paid an undisclosed sum to settle their claims. Whatever the type of elevator, nowhere are maintenance problems more evident than public housing, where elevators are often run down and subject to vandalism. In Chicago alone, 2 people have died in elevator accidents at low-income buildings just this year. Here at Cabrini Green, residents say the elevators rarely function properly.
They'll just bam, real fast, and it does it all the time, yeah.
Robin Sharkey watched the elevator door crush her brother-in-law's leg.
It broke in half and then like fractured right up here under the knee.
Green has sued the Chicago Housing Authority, which has denied any wrongdoing. Yet when we visited Cabrini Green almost a month after the accident, the elevator was still not working properly. To see how much force the door had, we brought along a melon. The door smashed it like a Nerf ball. Then we tested a piece of wood 1 inch thick. The force of the closing door snapped it in half. Unlike other forms of public transportation, airplanes and trains, for instance, elevators are not monitored by any federal agency. So the safety of the ride you get depends on the quality of the inspection in the state where you live, and that varies widely. Some states require no inspection.